There's no employees, there's no higher ups that are telling you what to do. It's your money that you're managing. Every decision you make is either your fault or your success. The whole goal is to find out who you are as a trader and what makes sense to you. Everything in this game is consistency. It's not about what you did yesterday, what you do tomorrow, or even this week or this month. It's 6 months, a year, multiple years, your whole career.
Hello, and welcome to The Trader's Journey by Investors Underground. In this episode, we share an interview that we recorded on location with trader, mentor, and co-founder of Clover Trading, Dominic Mastromatteo. We hope you enjoy. Dom, thank you for being here and chatting with me today.
Happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. And your reputation precedes you, I must say. I did an interview with Jack Kellogg, who we both know is a phenomenal trader. Yeah. And he mentioned your name as someone who was instrumental to his progress as a trader. So I wanted to start there and ask, what was that like meeting with Jack? When did you meet him? And in particular, he mentioned risk management as something that you were extremely helpful about and teaching him. So can you just start by telling us, that story?
Yeah, so trading is a very lonely game, and it's very difficult to kind of do it on your own. And I was a part of different educational programs at the beginning, but I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't ask questions in the webinars. Like I was, always felt like my questions were stupid or I didn't know enough. So I spent a lot of time studying and putting a lot of hours in when, in the dark, in between trades, every night, in the morning. But I didn't do a very good job networking with other people. And Jack was one of the first few people that I ever kind of met online in one of the Tim Sykes rooms. And he just really stood out to me as someone who was putting in as much work as I was. They say 95% of traders lose. And so I really wanted to focus on what the 5% are doing. At that time, we had both made a little bit of money in the market, nothing crazy, but we were clearly on the right path. And we just started talking every day and just online, and just our interests were very similar. We were both interested in motivational stuff and the type of YouTube stuff that's inspirational, motivational, like business minded, like just how can we get better at every aspect of our life, because that will bleed into our trading. And yeah, it's really weird. I don't condone what we did, just meeting someone on the internet and then moving in together but we were both so passionate about trading, and we made each other so much better because every single day was just nonstop trade talk. It started out in the morning, pre-market prep together, then trading in the same office together, which I think is a new concept for a lot of people who, you're so used to just showing up to your basement or your room, your office, and just trading by yourself on a laptop or with your screens. And you're going through the ups and downs by yourself, but having someone else or multiple people in the room is really, really beneficial. And at that point of our careers, this was 2018, 2019, I think it really gave us the baseline to kind of go exponential with our profit curves. That's where we started to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Trading was after we got together and just kind of were able to fill the holes in each other's systems, kind of create our own foundation, our own blueprint for what made sense for us. At that time, it was OTCs. He's a naturally short bias trader. I'm a naturally long bias trader. So kind of learning how the other one operates, what they use as risk levels, what they're looking at for profit targets, when they get emotional, all very, very good information. You asked about risk management, which to me, really comes down to trade plan. I think people think risk management, they think cut losers quickly or just don't lose a lot. But to me, you can't make a lot of money unless you have really good risk management, because everything in this game is consistency. It's not about what you did yesterday, what you do tomorrow, or even this week or this month. It's 6 months, a year, multiple years, your whole career. And it's being able to show up with the same approach and the same habitual process of, this is how much I'm going to lose when I'm wrong. Choosing the right risk levels. Something I see a lot of beginners struggle with is, their risk reward is jacked up, their win rate's jacked up. And if you're not using the right risk level based on the chart for whatever pattern you're trading, it's very difficult to make good risk reward and very difficult to make a lot of money. And then, obviously avoiding disastrous trades by having a system, by knowing if I choose the right risk level, if I'm always risking the same amount dollar-wise, and I'm focusing on trades and patterns that allow me to do those things, I'll never be in a situation where I'm going to lose a lot of money or potentially blow up. And it's very difficult to go on massive drawdowns. Obviously, I've done them. We all kind of go through the ups and downs of trading. We get out of sync sometimes, but it's really important to know why that's happening. And risk management's a good place to start. And I think it's something that should be the focal point of every new trader's journey for the first few years, because if you can get the habits down on how to lose small and how to lose and keep yourself safe, you'll keep yourself in the game longer, and you'll build the habits that when your account gets bigger and bigger, sometimes you get more casual, you get desensitized to the amount of money. It's just a number on a screen. But if you learn with $100 or $50, not to be afraid to lose it, but to accept those losses and always take them at the right places, you won't necessarily put yourselves in the position to lose massive amounts down the line.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible on a number of levels. I mean, everything from meeting someone who's a great fit is very complimentary of your style, being a long bias trader, meeting a short bias trader. I wanted to ask you, how did you learn about risk management? Is this something that sort of intuitively you kind of understood by planning ahead of time, and that's where you begin with risk management? Or, how did you learn what you know about risk management and I guess trading in general?
Yeah, well, it started kind of in, steps, right? Trading tickers is kind of my Bible. You hear a lot of the Clover say it. A lot of good traders talk about how instrumental that DVD was for everyone. But it kind of blew my mind the first time I watched it, because I realized that, choosing the right, it's not about just cutting losses when you feel like you're wrong. It's about having a system where I'm staying in this trade until a certain level breaks, because that is where the pattern is no longer, my hypothesis is no longer valid, and the trade should fail. If I'm buying a breakout and my risk level is $1, that means to me that under $1, it is impossible for the stock to go and break out and do what I want. And so it became really obvious to me, because a lot of people at the beginning struggle with bag holding, they struggle with cutting losses because they want to hold on for a little bit more. Maybe they'll come back to break even. All terrible habits to have. But I just realized if I'm choosing the right risk level, then it's very easy to cut that loss, because I don't want to be in something that I clearly believe is wrong. But yeah, it's a step-by-step process. And once you learn where to risk, you start to base your patterns off of that. So I focus primarily on risk reward, because the setups that I trade have a lower win rate than a lot of other, I'm a long bias trader. I trade a lot of breakouts and first green days. And the win rate's somewhere in the 40%. That's where my performance has been most of my life. So I have to focus on entries, which I believe is a real big part of risk management too. Being able to get entries near really important risk levels. When I first started trading too, I was using not my money. I was using my parents' money, relatives' money, trying to scrape up a couple thousand to create another account to have multiple day trades. And so I started off in a real paranoid state, I would say in a good way, where I was always trying to keep the account alive. Every day that I could survive and lose small meant that I had more time to learn and study and build up my mental account until the time that I started to get it. And so I was always, and I think it's also a personality thing, because you do see a lot of beginners who come into the market who are just gunslingers. They're not afraid to lose money. You hear people say that a lot of traders are degenerates, which I think at some level we all are. But I wasn't like that from the beginning. I was really afraid to lose big. I didn't want to blow up my accounts, because I didn't want to have to find more money to trade. I didn't want to lose someone else's money either. So I came from a real, a respect thing for the market. I feared the market. And so I became really good at accepting losses, using the right amount of risk. I think a lot of people, they size up too quickly, or they start at too high of a number, and that can kind of add to the worrisome of cutting a loss, because if it's already a bigger than expected number that you don't want to lose, it's going to be really hard to push that button when it's not really a realized loss until you take it, right? So you can give it a little time, let it come down, maybe bag hold, wait for it to come back for break even. I never wanted to mess around with any of that. And it did take me 3 or 4 years before I ever had a really big loss. And that was a whole new thing I had to focus on myself, because I had obviously gotten away from where I started. But I really focused on risk management first, just kind of out of fear of losing, and using that as an edge versus, because I was still able to click the buttons, but just never allowing myself to get stubborn with trades.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I know you had mentioned Tim Kurtani's trading tickers as something that was instrumental for you in learning. One of the questions I have for you is sort of, how many times have you watched that DVD or that series of DVDs, and how much work actually goes into learning how to trade before you can actually even break even or become a profitable trader?
Yeah, so I've probably seen Trading Tickers, the original one, probably over 30 times, maybe more, honestly, because I still go back and watch specific sections, and I think that's a really good study tool. I think there's going to be a first red day tomorrow, so I'm going to go study the first red day section of that, get my brain going again on key levels and what he's using to risk off of and price targets. and then becoming a profitable trader and like how much studying goes into it before you can actually trade. I think it's going to depend on the person, but I do think there's some period of time, depending on how much energy and focus you can actually put into the market based off your lifestyle, into the actual studying, where you have to just dive in. You have to study everything. It does like every mentor, every DVD, because you don't know who you are as a trader yet. You don't have enough experience, so you do have to learn what everyone else is doing. And this is the advice I give to a lot of people is, because I'm not the trader I am today because I wanted to be that type of trader. It was because of based off my statistics over years of pointing me in the direction of things that are driven by my personality, my risk tolerance, my comfortability with trades. But you don't know that from the beginning. So there is a period of time where you have to just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Even experiment with a lot of different patterns. And then that usually is, I would say, probably a 3 to 6 month period where you really are just finding out what makes sense to you. And the advice I give is like, if you watch Trading Tickers or you watch Nate's guides or anyone's DVDs is, really pay attention to what makes sense to you even a little bit on the first watch. Because there's a lot of stuff, where someone's talking about options or Forex or something, and you can't even follow the sentence because it makes so little sense to you. That's not where I would start putting my time and attention when I start trading, because I'd have to spend so much extra time to understand it. But when I watched the multi-day breakout section of Tim Grittani's guide, I understood everything about it, like from a 30,000 foot view, like right off the bat. And so it was a really easy thing for me to go, okay, if I just put a little bit of time to this, I can keep on building that skill set on this one pattern. And maybe later down the line, so what I would do is I'd just watch the multi-day breakout section over and over to the point where I would know what he's going to say next. And that guide is so instrumental because it really shows. He does a lot of live trades in there where he commentates over what's happening. You see the market and you hear what his plan is. You also watch him make a lot of mistakes. So risk management, like learning from horror stories of other people, so you don't have to make those mistakes yourself. As mentors, I think that's our responsibility, is to share with you everything that's happened so you can learn from those experiences, so you don't have to necessarily go through them yourself. But it's a pretty good sized learning curve, but the whole goal is to find out who you are as a trader and what makes sense to you.
Awesome. And who are you as a trader? What type of trading interests you most? Are you more, long biased? Are you looking for certain setups? How do you find those stocks? And how did you discover what you do best at?
Yeah, so that last question, how I kind of discovered it, is I went through the process that I just talked about, and then I traded for a while, 3 months, 6 months, and I started, which is another really important thing I think everyone should be doing, beginners, is tracking all of this. Track every time you take a trade, as much information as you can based off that trade. Where you entered, where you exited, what your original plan was, how much you were risking, how much you made, and what pattern was it. And that was the most important statistic for me, because after a few months, I was able to look back, and I had heard someone talking on a podcast or something about how from a 1 year difference, like 2015 to 2016, they took 1,000 trades and made a certain amount of money, but then they really focused on quality. And then the next year, they took half as many trades but made double the amount of money in the next year. That really stuck with me, that maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I have too many patterns, too many setups. So I went through my statistics over a few month period, and it was very obvious. It was really clear that there was one thing that I was really good at making money, and that was multi-day breakouts. But I didn't even realize it, that I was that bad at the other setups I was trading. And I was consistently losing at a low win rate on all these like 3 or 4 other patterns. And there was one thing in there that I was really good at and making a lot of money, but you would never know that without statistics, because we think we know who we are as traders, like just we can feel it. But the statistics really pointed out, make it obvious that I had to make the decision at that moment to cut out everything that I was losing on and just put all my attention on this one thing and prove to myself that I can become consistent for the first time. Because I always say that I think there's a profitable trader in every unprofitable trader. They just don't know it or know where it's at. And statistics allow you to know that, because when I looked at that, I felt stupid, because I'm like, why am I trading all of these things that are consistently losing money and taking away all the money that I'm making on this one setup, multi-day breakouts for me? And so that's kind of how I built my system, is that I realized there's a lot of places in the market that I'm not good. I don't make money. I'm not consistent at. I don't quite understand fully. And for me, that's mostly all the stuff that people get attracted to. Day one runners, low float gaps, gap and craps, shorting day one. I realized that I'm more of someone who needs to see a lot of information. I need to see a lot of a big picture trend. So I'm really looking to take advantage of stocks that, out of nowhere, they get news, they get volume. And they go on little runs from 5 to 20 days, and they get a ton of volume, increased range, increased volatility. But for a very short period of time, these stocks are in play. But I'm only looking to take advantage of them on very specific moments. I don't trade the initial run. If a stock goes from $1 to $10 over 2 or 3 days, I'm not interested in trading that whatsoever. I'm waiting for that stock to get on my watch list during that run, and I'm learning from it. I'm stalking it. I'm not watching the hot runners of the day on day one normally, but once they start to extend, that's when I really start to pay attention to them. I'm going through Twitter, through chat rooms, who's short, where are they short from, where are they getting squeezed at, because I'm just in my head thinking that if this stock is still in play in a week, there might be a trade for me. And so I'm not good at reactive type of trades, trading the momentum or feeling like a gut feeling type trading. Doesn't work for me because I get very emotional, and every bad decision I make, every loss I take, really can affect my next trade. And I realize that I'm very fragile as a trader. That's my personality with trading, and I think it's really important that you know that. So once a stock has been trading for 5 or 7 days, it's went from 1 to 10. Now it's consolidated sideways at like $8.50 or $9, and no one's watching anymore. The volume has dropped off. Everyone's on to the next hot runner. I'm staring at the stock as it develops, and I'm looking to follow the next move. And I really want to tag team that momentum to the upside on the second move. I let the stock trade the first time. I let it develop levels over days where I really truly understand which levels of support and resistance matter. And then I'm trying to maximize risk reward. And my biggest edge is that I'm watching stocks that you're not watching. And that's really is, to me, is people, you got squirrel brains. They're going from one ticker to the next ticker to the next ticker. And in my mind, when I see something that has a good share structure, that has the right news in the right market, that's trading enough volume in a certain amount of range, I think, why would I look at all this other stuff when there's a potential big trade on the horizon? I need to learn everything I can about this particular vehicle in this moment of time. And then I've just kind of stared at these type of developing charts for years and years now, and to the point where I'm just trying to find the perfect entry on the day of or right before a big breakout move, a continuation move. Stocks don't go straight up and they don't go straight down. So kind of looking at that stair step idea of, once it gets on my radar, I'm going to take advantage of the next move. And then I do short sell a little bit on the first red day, but it has to be really good, like really extended, never going red, because I don't make as much money on those. And I know that through my stats, but I have a high enough win rate on those that they should be a part of my system, but they probably made up less than 20% of my overall profits. And then I'm looking for a very specific move on the backside once a couple red days has passed, looking to bounce that stock. Because after everyone has been squeezed out, now their backside is in, sellers are in control. Once it fades off, same type of thing happens. People stop watching. And these stocks goes from 1 to 10, and then 10 to 5, 50% drawdown in 2 or 3 days, loses its volume. Shorts still need to cover that have been patient after they've been squeezed on the initial run, and I'm looking to take advantage of that volatile move back into previous resistance. That last little bit of life before the stocks kind of dwindle back off to where they came from, and the hype is gone.
Okay, incredible. I think you have a very comprehensive approach to what you're looking for. And I mean, you're looking at all the market participants, levels. Are you also looking at fundamentals for a particular company, and are you more along the technical side and chart reading in comparison?
Technical analysis is, so I started in the OTCs where fundamentals are almost irrelevant just because every company that's on the OTC market is not good enough to be listed or on NASDAQ. And so the share structure matters with those a little bit in terms of if the float's too big, it can hinder how much you can run. But I learned everything that my systems were built on technical analysis, understanding support and resistance and what levels truly matter to the market participants. And so when I started transitioning over in 2019 to listed stocks, because the OTC market started to die off and the volume started to dwindle, I needed to adapt, or else I was going to die and not be able to, there wasn't enough opportunity in OTCs anymore to make a living. That's something I really struggled with. I took some big losses along the way of being stubborn, not understanding fundamentals. So I kind of learned the hard way there. You don't need to be, you can be a technical trader, but still have a grasp and an understanding on what fundamentals matter. All these companies that we're trading in small caps are generally all to create liquidity and to create, money for the insiders or for the higher ups in the company. They're not to benefit shareholders. So when they run in these little pockets of time, 5 or 10 or 15 days on the hype, there's usually a bigger plan at hand, and it's usually to put money in their pockets to dilute the stock, to dilute shareholders. So having a basic understanding is something that I've kind of adapted over the last few years. Understanding float, how much volume we're trading relative to that float. Is there any active dilution? Is there an at-the-market offering available? Do they have warrants at certain levels that people can that they can cash out? And there's going to create a new level of supply at certain levels that's going to make it very difficult for it to run. And it's usually, as a long bias trader, more than anything, is I've had to look into the fundamentals to keep myself safe. I've gotten caught in some nasty situations overnight where it was avoidable based off of the fundamentals. Just a quick look into the filings, and I could have read that they had potential dilution, that they were a biotech. A lot of biotechs are sketchy and hard to hold overnight because they're always trying to meet endpoints, and so they have to make money, and they have to use to fund whatever they're trying to do, whether it's a new drug, a new medical device or something. They need money, and to do that, they have to dilute the stock, which means they have to run it. And so I've taken some nasty losses, and it's felt ignorant and stubborn of me not to have done that earlier and looked more into the fundamentals. But it is something I pay attention to now, just to try to keep myself safe and to understand what I shouldn't be holding overnight, when I should have stop losses in if I walk away for a minute, because you never know if a midday offering is coming. So if it doesn't really, I don't use it as an edge to trade better. It's more of to avoid, more of risk management, to try to get myself in a better situation, not to take big losses or put myself in a position to lose a lot really quickly.
Are you still trading OTCs and that market when it heats up every now
Oh
and
God,
then?
yeah. If they wanted to heat up this week or into the end of the year, I would put all my attention on it, because, the first few years of my career, that's all I did and that's all I studied. And that's the kind of the cool thing about the market, is it's very cyclical. And once you create an edge, you learn a new strategy, you find a good risk reward opportunity. When it's there, and they usually always come back, you can milk it. You can make a lot of money in a short period of time if you have a significant edge over everyone else. And the market's always changing. You constantly have to be adapting. And so my goal in 2019 was to kind of create systems that were more for longevity, that they can survive market cycles. That when OTCs, it was wild because they just really died off. But yeah, every time I create a new edge or study something new from a new trader, it's always going to be put into my back pocket and something that I want to use if it ever presents itself. Stuff like sector momentum. We've had oil runs, Bitcoin runs, marijuana runs. Those are skill sets that you have that you always keep in your back pocket. That it's not there most of the time. Usually once or twice a year, if that. But when it comes around, you can make a significant amount of money really quickly. So it's always good to be brushing up on those skills and paying attention to them, because if I'm not paying attention to OTC start to heat up, I might miss an entire move.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you made the transition from OTCs to more of the listed names, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those and basically get to a point where you're comfortable and profitable trading some of the listed names?
Yeah, and that was a hard time for me, because I think a lot of people have the idea that once you become consistently profitable the first time, that life just gets easier and you just continue to make more and more money till the end of time. But we're humans, we're emotional, the market changes. And I went 9 months after making a couple $100,000 in the market to completely sideways. 9 months of not making any money. OTCs dried up. I had to start doing the same thing again, throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. But at the end of the day, it was the same type of systems that I was trading in the OTC world that I adapted into listed, because and it's something we talked a lot about in the most recent boot camp with people, is knowing who you are as a trader, what makes sense to you, what patterns, what type of price action do you like to trade, at what times of day, what moves are you looking for. And instead of, when I went to listed, I started trading first red days and day one gappers and low float runners and pre-market stuff. And I came to the same conclusion that I came to the first time when I was trying to become profitable, was I just don't gel with any of this other stuff. I need to be looking for big picture daily chart patterns, waiting for the levels to set up. And the hardest thing for me, which took some time to adapt, is just the way OTCs trade versus listed stocks. Listed stocks, like I said, you can be a master of technical analysis and basically trade any day of an OTC, because they confine to their levels. They don't really do shakeouts. Where in listed stocks, you'll see stocks where a level of resistance holds, but it still goes past it a couple percent and then has to prove that it can hold underneath it. In listed stocks, you can trust most levels with your life. If stock breaks high day, late day on an OTC, it's going to go on a little 10 or 15% move, just due to the nature of the executions of OTCs. And so for listed stocks, I had to realize that I couldn't do the same type of entries that I was doing, buying strength consistently and just knowing that once the buyers kind of take control, that it has a big enough move that I can feel safe. In listed stocks, I I have to find entries a lot closer to my risk levels. Exits were something I had to really work on, because in OTCs, I'm always looking to swing something every night, because stocks just gap in OTCs. They break out, they run, and then the next day they open higher, and then they run, and then the day that backside gets set is the first time they go red. Listed stocks are very choppy. If you swing something overnight, it could still go higher the next day, but it might start out 5% red. And so that's something I had to start to account for in my plans. And again, I just needed experience. I had to just watch a lot of these develop for, it took me 9 months the second time to figure it out. And once I started to notice the differences and, plan for them, put them as part of my plan and my blueprint, that I need to change just a few little things. It was just the nuances. They're the same patterns that I trade in OTCs that I do unlisted. It's just the little nuances, the actual manipulation of the position and the actual execution.
And you're really detailed, it seems like, about what you're tracking, and again, still understanding what you do well with, but also taking a look at levels, understanding, just the intricacies of a new market. Did you find that strictly through just observation, or were you doing anything like journaling, watching videos of your trades, and talking to other traders, to get a sense for what they're doing? How much extra work were you putting in to really understand and get a grasp of how these listed stocks trade?
Yeah, I did more work, I think, in 2019 than I did in 2016 and 17 to figure it out the first time, because listed stocks were just a different beast. But like you said, it was a lot of networking. At that point in my career, I started to know a lot more traders. I met Jack, and then I met Kyle, and I knew Huddy. And I had people I could reach out to and say, I need to learn how to do this. You do it really well. What can you help me with? Based off of my skill set and what makes sense to me, what are little things I can add into it? I think that's a very important thing too, is like being able to have mentors and people on the internet that you listen to and are better than you. It's not about becoming, because for a while I was just trying to become Nate or become Jack or become Gritani. And it's very impossible, because we all think so differently. And the main takeaway is I need to take little pieces of what they do well. When I watch Gritani trade, what are the aspects of what he's doing really well that I want to have in my trading based off of what makes sense to me? I can't do everything the same way. I can't get the size at the same levels that they are at. I'm going to have different entries and different exits. So how does it affect my plan? But it was networking. It was through experience and just watching and backtracking a lot. At that point, I'd spent so much time on OTCs that I hadn't seen a lot of listed breakouts or listed first red days or listed first screen days. So I had to go backwards and talk to people who understood programming and stuff and say, I need 150 of these, and I want to go back and I want to study them. And I want to see every time a multi-day breakout set up, what action preceded the breakout. And then I built, over the years, I've gotten really, really good at getting lower and lower and lower, like such a cushion by the time the stock breaks out, based off of just seeing so many of them happen and looking for little intricacies in specific indicators that a breakout is going to be attempted here in the next day. And I've gotten to the point where I can see it days out now when it's going to happen. And although that's not something I might be entering at that time, based off a lot of the risk stuff we talked about earlier and holding overnight, but it's just creating such a big edge on one thing. I really realized at that time that I was never going to be a jack of all trades. I wasn't going to be able to do everything Nate does, or trade quick price action, or have a million arrows on my chart. I'm someone who's going to click very few buttons, maximize risk reward, lose the same amount when I'm wrong, and do that over a long period of time. And I'm going to have hot markets, I'm going to have sideways markets, but if I stick to my system and I'm winning on average over 2 to 1 on my losers, I can have a 44% win rate, which is what I have in my system. But it really just became about mastering one thing and stop watching all this other stuff that I clearly don't know how to do.
That's great. Understanding what you do well and capitalizing on it. It could be, it sounds really simple, and yet there's a lot of complicated parts when you break it down that you've went through, but it also sounds like you've kind of boiled all of that complexity back down to understanding what you do well with, and really just, again, capitalizing on that. And I think that's incredible, and something that traders should really think about in their own trading. What advice would you give to traders who maybe don't know what they do well at, or they're still trying to find consistency, but they have bigger losers and they have winning trades? What advice would you give to them who are trying to really master themselves?
Yeah, well, I'd say you have to be really honest with yourself. In trading, you'll hear a lot of people say it's you versus you. There's no employees. There's no higher ups that are telling you what to do. It's your money that you're managing. Every decision you make is either your fault or your success. And I think a lot of people disregard a lot of the things they do wrong because they just brush it off and they don't want to like deal with it. But you have to deal with those demons because those are the things that decide whether or not you have a future. Can you do this for 5 years, for 10 years, right? But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to follow your honesty with yourself. Like a lot of traders do know who they are. They just disregard it. I talked to a lot of people in person this last week, a lot of people who are struggling, and they're like, I don't know who I am as a trader. I'm really struggling to find the pattern, right? But then you talk to them for 5 minutes and they bring up scalping 20 times. And I'm like, did you not realize that you clearly have an interest in scalping? You clearly make money doing it. It's all the other stuff that you're doing. And so like you said, it's a really simple system that I do, and my rules are very, very easy, and the patterns I trade aren't that complicated. It's more of just the discipline to do it, to have the patience for the next setup or wait for the next good market, and realize that cash is a position. I don't need to trade all the time because I can make so much money in a short period of time. I don't need to be doing all these other things, and I can study and I can learn other edges, but I don't need to be necessarily trading them, because this game, it's so emotional. And if I spend a period of time, like say that in 2 months from now there's going to be the craziest market for my setups, and I spend the next 2 months just losing little by little by little, it's eventually going to take its toll on me. If it's not part of my system, I'm creating bad habits. I might draw down to the point where when the hot market comes, I'm afraid to trade because I've lost so much in the last couple months leading up to it that I'm in a fragile state that I can't take advantage of the hot market that we're in right now. So you just have to really be honest with yourself, but you have to stick to it. A lot of things that I do very often, because I'm probably the most inconsistent Clover that we have. Like, I'm not just perfect bottom left to top right profit curve. I go through stretches where I just make a lot of money really fast, and then I have to deal with a lot of emotions and stuff for a little while when the market changes, and then my patterns show up and I make a lot of money. So it's just being able to, what I like to do is do experiments with myself where I create my rules again, which are always the same. It's the same blueprint that I built years ago. It's just, let's stop doing all the other noise and focus on doing it. Because it's a proven system for me across all markets. It's the human aspect, the human element that I bring to it that causes it to fail, right? If I'm in a situation where I'm losing 44% of the time on my setups and I'm trying to make 3, 4, 5 to 1 when I'm right, I can't go out there and lose 50R on a trade because the system is not built to withstand that. So now it's 6 months before I get back to where I was just at. So it's more of just eliminating potential future disasters and understand that that can happen at any day. You don't know when your big loss is around the corner. It doesn't, there are signs that it's scary or it's sketchy, it's low float, but it really has to do with you and your approach to the market every single day. The market's constantly changing, but I want to have the same approach every single day in terms of risk management, in terms of waiting for my setups. And if I do that, I theoretically shouldn't take big losses. I shouldn't go through drawdowns because I'm managing my emotions, my system, all at once every single day. And it is very difficult to handle the human part of trading. You'll hear a lot of people say it's the psychology. It's not the trades. It's not the price action. That stuff can be learned. And I know most of the traders that are struggling right now know all of that stuff. It's handling it. It's being able to create a system for yourself where you put yourself in positions to win more often than not and make more money than you do when you're wrong.
And sort of on that topic of having a network and people that you could bounce ideas off of, how did Clover Trading come to be? Because you're all exceptional traders in your own right. And so, how did that come to fruition? And how helpful is it to have that network of traders that you can go to and bounce an idea off of, or talk to someone when you had a big loss, or, what you're thinking about the next big trade?
Yeah. So I started teaching kind of with Kellogg back in the day in 2018, 19. But if maybe you have or you haven't heard of the Michigan Boys, there's a lot of people around my hometown who friends, family, who are all traders that you don't know about and probably won't ever hear about, who are very, very, very consistent and very profitable. That was my first round of teaching back in the day, and I think teaching is so valuable, from an individual perspective, because you get so much better at your craft when you're explaining it constantly, when you're accountable for what you're doing, and they say, you told me yesterday don't short this type of stock, and then I do it. So you have some level of accountability for yourself. But the teaching aspect for me is just once I kind of figured it out the first time, it was so hard. And doing it on my own, There was a lot of stressful nights with no one. I think St. Lucie talked about this in his presentation. Like no one even has the smallest amount of understanding of what we go through on a day-to-day basis. Like the money that comes and goes, the situations we're in, the types of stocks we're trading. It doesn't make sense to them, and it doesn't make sense to your parents or your spouse or your friends, and so you can feel very lonely. So having a network of people is really, really important, and it's really important to have people that are on the same level as you, people that you're maybe building, and they're going through the things you went through last year. Then you need to be talking to people, your mentors, or people who are a little bit ahead of you, who can help you, like you're saying, they've gone through the big loss, and they can help walk you through a solution, get you on the right track, or either identify your weaknesses. It's sometimes in trading you can have a lot of really easy mistakes that you're making that are very easy to find solutions to, but your brain is just too attached, you're too involved in it that you can't even see it. But someone who's looking at it, just looking over your numbers or watching you trade or listening to the way you're talking for a week or a month, can go, it sounds like this is your problem. And if you're not talking to people, you'll never get that kind of third party like perspective. But because of how hard it was, I really got into teaching because I thought I could help people. I had a proven track record. I wasn't charging people to teach family or friends or high school dropouts around me. I just knew how hard it was and how good it felt to chase a dream and actually come through on the other side of it. And so when I see people struggling or people who want something different, because most people in life, they don't really dream. Once you go to college and you get a 9-to-5 job, you're just kind of there. And you want to have family, have kids, you have your hobbies, but you kind of you go through that stale stage of where you're just trying to get by. You're just going to work. You enjoy your weekends. Most people don't dream, but traders, they have dreams and they have goals, and they never stop. You look at Jack Kellogg, he's still getting better and better and better. And life is just a lot more fun when you're on the hunt for something bigger. And so I want to help people with that. I want people to feel that, of a passion for something, but actually to go through the struggle. Because trading really teaches you a lot about life in terms of, you've heard 10,000 hours, whatever it is, but, no one's path was ever easy. If you listen to anyone's story around here, any successful trader, they've been in the dumps. And, sometimes like me, you revisit the dumps at stages in your career, and this will really test you as a person. So I want to help people go through that and understand you can get through it with a certain amount of work, a certain amount of focus and time and energy, and just have them kind of create, realize their dreams themselves and see it kind of the whole process through. And then kind of Clover, we've dabbled in different educational and mentorship programs. We've all kind of taught for the last few years, but, we are kind of interesting in the fact that we're all really close friends. And, it started with me and Jack. Jack was reaching out to Kyle. Huddy kind of came in the whole thing. And we go to in-person stuff. We talk online. We have our own private little message, group chat, like where you're saying, where we're bouncing ideas off each other. Mm-hmm. Someone's in a sticky situation. Okay, I've been through it before. This is kind of how I navigated that. And eventually got to the point where we're just like, how much fun would it be to do what we're all passionate about with each other? Mm-hmm. And, if I'm someone who's looking to find an educational platform, we all do things so differently, right? There's 4 of us, and you have long bias traders, you have short bias traders, you have people who can trade momentum and hype really fast. You have people like me who are more big picture. Someone like Huddy who's very systematic and really picks his spots. So as a student, for that first part of having to go through and try everything, I think that's really beneficial. But then you also kind of find someone that really makes sense to you, you resonate with, and you start to pelt them with questions. You really study their webinars. So I think it's really lucrative that there's 4 of us, that we're all so close, that we get along so well. But it's really the skill sets. And it was just, if I was a student, what would I want? I'd want a little bit of everything. And I think that's what we do really well. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. So
yeah, that's incredible. And it's clear to me that you're very passionate and knowledgeable about the education space for traders. So I think that's extremely commendable, and I highly recommend everybody go check out Clover Trading. I know you guys just had an in-person boot camp in Boston. What was that experience like, and what do you hope that those who attended were able to take away from it?
Yeah, it was a really fun, jam-packed week for those of you who were there. We had a Traders for a Cause event on the Friday. Got to meet everyone, kind of like a warm-up for the boot camp. But in-person boot camps, I think, are just so beneficial, and they take it to the next level. We talked a lot about being lonely and how hard this game is by yourself. Going out and seeing people in person, even just talking to us and realizing that it's real. We're not celebrities. We're not famous. We're just regular people who are just chasing a dream. And for me, in-person boot camps kind of taught me that it's attainable, right? I went through my first one when I was severely unprofitable and still trying to figure it out. And just seeing people, that have done it, and they're explaining how they do it, and it makes sense, and it's not a scam. It just motivates you. I think a lot of people leave these little in-person stuff really motivated and inspired to go make it happen for themselves. But in terms of what I would want people to take away, it's just, kind of what we were just talking about. There's we had so many great guest speakers. We had Nate, Sang Lucci, Roland, Laptop Legend. Everyone does something different. And my whole presentation was all about kind of what we've talked about, just like finding yourself. Like, know where you're not so you can find out who you are. And by having watched all of that, I hope people really were able to resonate with something. Whether it was Nate talking about sizing up at the right time and taking his risk tolerance down because he has lifestyle goals now that are outside of trading, or Laptop Legend talking about finding inefficiencies in the market and taking advantage of short-term volatility, or maybe it was Huddy explaining everything in the ins and outs of short selling, right? I hope that you would take away that maybe there is something that I need to spend the next 3 months really focusing my attention on. Because it's kind of everything we've been talking about, the whole theme here, really focusing on what you're good at. I hope someone found something that made sense to them that they can dive into and spend more time, and take that motivation and inspiration that they're feeling when they leave there and really put that focus into the right thing. Because I've left boot camps before where you're so motivated that the next day you go out and you take 20 trades and it's kind of negative momentum happens from the motivation. But I really hope people found something that worked for them, because we had such a different group of people, from options to small caps to large caps. Hopefully we were able to answer a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely incredible. And I got to meet some of the people who were there in attendance in Boston when they were at the Traders for a Cause meetup. And it was just a great energy for the people that were going to be attending the Clover Bootcamp. One question I have for you is, what do you think is the ideal member to be joining the Clover community? What type of people are you looking for to be there and to join? What kind of community would you like to cultivate?
Yeah, so just from a perspective of beginner, intermediate, that I don't think matter. We have so many people who've been through the ring. I'm really good at teaching first-time traders because my system is so simple, and I can get you off the ground. A lot of the Michigan boys don't do anything that I do as a trader anymore. I taught them the foundation, what to be paying attention to, how to handle your emotions, and then they kind of go out into the world and become, sometimes better than me, but way better than me at different things once they find themselves, whether it's scalping, swinging, short selling, stuff that I don't do. But so, it doesn't matter what level you're at. We can also, you can take you to the next level. We've all had to been at points in our career. We've had to adapt. We've had to learn how to size up. We've had to learn to find new strategies. So we have all of that as well. But from a characteristic perspective, someone who's willing to put in the work, right? Someone who, because all the information is there. You have the mentors, you have the community. So you really need that dedication and to be able to put that time in and just have that no quit type of attitude. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, you're not going to succeed if you don't have that, because you have to be able to handle a lot of adversity and handle setbacks and turn those into become emotionally invincible, right? So yeah, that type of person, someone who likes to be a part of community, someone who's willing to put themselves out there and say, I took a big loss on this yesterday. Can anyone help me out? And to be able to, the type of person who wants to reach out and make the community better, build up the entire trading community from the ground up. So maybe in the future, 90% of people fail instead of 95. But just a community of people that are passionate about what they're doing. They love trading. They're doing it for more than the money, because that's something we've all kind of had to learn, and maybe different avenues in life. If you don't have true passion for it, I played soccer my whole life. I played college soccer, but when I became successful at trading, I realized why I never kind of reached that next step of what I could have become as a soccer player. It's because I wasn't passionate about it. I didn't like going to practice. I didn't like studying. I didn't like learning about it. I was just talented at it, and talent only goes so far, right? And with trading, I really learned that you really have to like it, because it is hard. And there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of really moments with yourself where you question what you're doing. And so you have to have kind of that emotional invincibility, but it all comes down to why you're doing it. If you can answer, because I love it, because I'm passionate about it, because I want to be the best that I can possibly be, that's what the community is for, to kind of get you to wherever you want to go.
Incredible. And I think you're on the right path, and your projection, I can only imagine, is going to just go up into the right. Nothing but good things I see in your future. So
thank you.
Congratulations on starting Clover Trading, doing another in-person boot camp, And I'll be watching you guys. For those who are listening, who would like to learn more about you, or maybe get in touch with you and learn about Clover Trading, how can they do so?
Yeah, not huge on social media, but I do have an Instagram and a Twitter, Dom Mastro 10 on Twitter, and then Dom Clover Trading for Instagram. The best place to reach out to me, probably not sliding into my DMs because I don't really check my social media all that much. But if you go and you go to the Clover Trading link tree and you join our Discord, there's a free section, the Hangout Lounge. There's a questions tab. Just at me, DOM is my name on Discord, and I'd be happy to help you out if you want to join, answer any questions you have. We also do a lot of free stuff on YouTube with Wine Wednesday and Good Morning NASDAQ. So every morning, Monday through Friday, 8:45 a.m., I do Good Morning NASDAQ, where we just run through the hot stocks of the day, go through the scanner, go through the fundamentals, the dilution, and then every Wine Wednesday, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube.
Everybody, go check out Dom and Clover Trading. Dom, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Trader's Journey. We have additional episodes we believe you might also like, so don't forget to subscribe. You'll be notified of upcoming episodes the moment they're published. Thanks for tuning in.